Hello, hello, hello. I got Auntie Karen finally got in. I had to tell her she better be in here tonight so she can see her hat and her sign that she gave me. So we got a big lineup again. Not much going on tonight in sports, so I want to do a lot. We got Billy just came out with a short one, 20 minutes. That XRP Tim, I'll start playing that one. They got a big update on one guy on Telegram. So we'll play that there before. You guys want to play that before Billy or after Billy? I'm gonna wait till we get Paul and everybody, Paul and people that into that. Terry made it on time again. All right, you're 2 for 2, Terry. I gotta turn my. Shoot. So, Karen, you want a blue wrench? Would you like a blue wrench, Karen? Oh, all right. So, when I was hearing, did you guys see that update that I think Putin said no to the talk. So I have a feeling that war is going to continue. Not who know, but so we'll just gotta keep staying together. We'll see. Yeah, you would. You'll be able to when they see a wrench on there on your name. That would be nice. KK, where are you? Oh, there was some breaking news a little bit ago. I didn't know about that. Paul, I was telling everybody, Paul, that XRP guy, today's video I'll play when after we get a few videos in. We'll play that before Billy. Today's update. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Hopefully Kay will be in here. We're going to check up on that update that something just happened here 20 minutes ago. So we'll check that out. So, oh, wait. Shoot. We got to play her too. So that just came out. My goodness. A lot of news going on. Well, I guess I have to go to Telegram on this one.
Fun go and jumping on. This lady saying phone is dying, and so I don't know if she was able to get a charger or not. And of course, as soon as I hit go live,
she don't want to have it read.
Amazing, bruh. She gone.
Okay, I got 4 patrol officers in the hallway with 130. And
I fast forwarded a little bit.
El contexto, están buscando una persona trincherada dentro de su apartamento.
Yeah. Nothing big. Nothing big there. I don't know. I guess we could probably play that first, I guess. Let's go ahead and play that one. Everybody's in now.
Line sticking up from the top of the candle. That is not just a line. That is a crime scene. The price of silver flashed to $83.71. It didn't just drift there. It teleported. 1 minute, we were at $79. The next minute, we were at 83. And then, just as fast as it happened, the rug was pulled.
You see this?
The price collapsed from $83.71 all the way down to $74.47. That is a $9 swing in a single trading session. If you are a new investor, you are probably terrified. You are looking at that drop and thinking the rally is over. You are thinking the bubble has burst. But if you are a veteran, if you have survived 1980 and 2011, you know exactly what this is. This was a stop hunt. This was a calculated algorithmic attack designed to wipe out the leverage traders who chased the gap on Sunday night. The banks saw the liquidity drying up during Ghost Week. They saw the order book was empty, so they let the price run to $83 to suck in the retail money. And then, when the trap was full, they slammed the door. In this emergency market analysis, we're going to dissect the anatomy of this $9 swing. We're going to look at the shooting star candle that is forming on the daily chart. We are going to explain why this volatility is actually healthy for the long-term trend, even if it feels like a heart attack right now. Most importantly, we're going to show you why the physical price of silver did not drop $9 today. The paper market is whipping like a flag in a hurricane, but the flagpole is rock solid. This is the story of the Monday rug pull. To understand why silver dropped from $83, you have to understand who bought at $83. It wasn't the smart money. The smart money bought at $30. They bought at $50. The people buying at $83 on a Sunday night gap open were the chasers, the FOMO crowd, the people using 10 times leverage because they wanted to get rich quick. The banks have a database. They know exactly where these traders put their stop loss orders. A stop loss is an automatic sell order that triggers if the price drops. Most people who bought at $80 put their stop loss at $75. So the banks engineered a drop. They sold a massive block of futures at the high. This pushed the price down. It hit 79, then 78, and then it hit the stop loss zone at 75. Snap. Thousands of retail sell orders fired at once. This created a cascade, a waterfall of selling.
What do you
The
think?
price plummeted to $74.47 solely because of forced liquidations. And guess who was waiting at $74 to buy it back? The same banks that sold it at 83. They sold high. They forced you to sell low, and then they bought your position at a discount. This is called rinsing the leverage. It is brutal. It is unfair. But it is how the market clears out the gamblers before the next leg up. Now, let's look at the chart pattern. Technically, this candle is called a shooting star or a high wave candle. It has a small body and a very long upper wick. The wick represents rejection. It means the market tried to go to $83, but the sellers pushed it back down. Usually, a shooting star signals a pause.
Hey,
It means
Paul,
the buyers are
you're-
exhausted. They ran up the hill and they are out of breath. We should expect the price to
Yeah,
consolidate
no,
here.
let's get
We might chop
started.
around between $75 and $80 for a few days. Do not expect another straight line up tomorrow. The market needs to digest this $9 meal. But here is the critical data point. Look at the closing price relative to Friday. We closed Friday at $71.91. Right now, we're trading around $78.36. Despite the crash from the highs, we're still up. We're up nearly 10% from last week's close. If you ignore the wick, if you ignore the $83 flash, this is still a massive green day. The trend is still up. The breakout is still valid. The only thing that changed is that the easy money phase is over. Now we enter the volatile grind. Let's talk about gold. Gold is trading at $4,514. It is down slightly, about $4. This is stability. While silver is whipping around like a wild animal,
This
gold
guy
is sitting
okay?
calmly at
Paul,
all-time highs.
you think?
This tells us that the monetary system is still broken. Gold is the anchor. As long as gold holds $4,500, the floor under silver is secure. Silver is just acting like the high beta sibling. It overshoots to the upside and it overshoots to the downside. This volatility is the price of admission. If you want the gains of silver, you have to stomach the swings of silver. If you panicked when it dropped to $74, you were overleveraged. Physical holders didn't panic. Physical holders looked at the screen, saw the drop, and went back to eating leftovers because they know that an ounce is still an ounce. Now, we need to discuss the ghost week factor again. We warned you that low volume creates air pockets. Today was the proof. The reason the price could fall $9 so easily is because there were no buyers in the middle. The order book was hollow. The price fell through the gap until it hit the limit buy orders. Of the industrial whales sitting at $75. Notice where it bounced, $74.47. Why there? Because $75 was the breakout level from last week. Old resistance becomes new support. The market tested the breakout. It held. This is
you want me to
technically
stop
perfect
it,
behavior.
Paul?
It validated the
Forward.
$75 floor. The whales were waiting there. They stepped in and bought the dip aggressively, pushing us back to $78. This confirms that the industrial bid is real. Samsung and Tesla didn't chase the price to $83. They are too smart for that. They waited. They let the banks smash it. And then they scooped up the cheap contracts at 74. Smart money buys weakness. Dumb money buys strength. Today,
Hey.
we saw a transfer of wealth from the dumb money to the smart money. We're going to go deeper into this investigation. We need to look at the physical market
I'll let
reaction.
you judge
Did
on the
dealers
videos
lower their
on this
prices when
stuff.
spot dropped to 74?
I don't know
Or
nothing.
did they keep premiums high? And we need to look at the January setup. Does this shooting star candle ruin the January effect? Or does it simply offer a better entry price for the pension funds? The rug pull was painful, but it cleared the deck. The leverage is gone. The weak hands are gone. Now, the real market can resume. Stay tuned as we continue this deep dive. We are going to check the pulse of the physical supply chain. Do not let the volatility shake you out. We need to talk about the physical disconnect. While the paper price was
19
crashing from
minutes, guys.
$83 to $74, what happened at the coin shop? Did the dealers lower their prices by $9? Did they say, oh, look, the comics crashed, let's sell silver cheap? No, they kept their prices exactly where they were. In fact, some of them raised their premiums. This is the single most important signal for the physical investor. The spot price crashed, but the street price held firm. Why? Because dealers know that the paper volatility is fake. They know that if they sell a silver eagle at $78 and the price snaps back to $83 in an hour, they lose money. They're not willing to play the volatility game with their physical inventory. They are treating the physical metal as a stable store of value, while treating the paper price as a broken casino. So if you were waiting for the dip to buy physical, you probably missed it. The window to buy at $74 was open for maybe 15 minutes. And even then, the websites were likely crashing or showing out of stock. This proves that the dip was a paper event, not a physical event. There was no flood of physical selling. There was no line of people trying to dump their bars. There was only a computer algorithm dumping futures contracts. This divergence is critical. In a real bear market, physical investors panic sell. In a manipulated stop hunt, physical investors hold tight. We saw holding, we saw strength. The foundation of the market is solid concrete, even if the roof is shaking in the wind. Now, let's look at the industrial reaction. We talked about the whales buying the dip. Imagine you are the procurement manager for a solar company. You need silver. You have a budget. You saw the price hit $83 this morning. You were terrified. Then you saw it drop to $74. Did you panic? No, you celebrated. You hit the buy button on your hedging software instantly. This $9 drop was a gift to the industry. It allowed them to secure inventory at a discount before the end of the year. They used the bank's manipulation against the banks. The banks smashed the price to clear out the speculators, but they accidentally gave the industrial users a cheap entry point. This is why the price bounced so hard from $74 back to $78. The industry stepped in. They absorbed the paper selling and turned it into physical delivery requests. This creates a higher low. Last week, the floor was $65. This week, the floor looks like $74. We are building a staircase. The steps are getting steeper, but the direction is the same. Up. Let's discuss the volatility tax. Volatility is a tax on leverage. If you are trading futures or options or margin, today wiped you out. You paid the tax. But if you hold physical, you paid nothing. Your ounce is still an ounce. In fact, you gained information. You now know that the market is capable of hitting $83. You've seen the potential. The flash to $83 was a glimpse of the future. It showed us where the price wants to go when the suppression lifts for just a moment. It was a price discovery preview. Think of it like holding a beach ball underwater. For a second, the grip slipped and the ball shot up to 83. Then the banks wrestled it back down to 78. But now we know how much energy is stored in that ball. We know that 83 is not the ceiling. It is just the first stop.
Thanks,
We
Maria.
also need to look at the currency crosses. Silver didn't just crash against the dollar today. It crashed against everything. And then it recovered against everything. The dollar index is relatively flat. This tells us the move was specific to silver. It wasn't a macro event. It wasn't a change in interest rates. It wasn't a peace treaty. It was purely internal market structure. Positions were too heavy on the long side. The boat tipped over. Everyone fell out. Now the boat is righting itself. This cleanse is actually bullish for January. If we had gone straight to $100 without a correction, the crash would have been devastating. It would have ended the bull run for years. By crashing now, by flushing the leverage now, we reset the open interest. We clear the decks for the new money coming in January. The pension funds we talked about, they are happy. They didn't want to buy at 83. They are happy to buy at 78. The market just made itself more attractive to institutional capital. Let's analyze the psychology of the wick. That long wick on the chart is scary. It represents rejection. Technically, it means sellers overpowered buyers at $83. This creates a resistance zone. For the next few days, $83 will be a tough nut to crack. Traders who bought at the top are now bag holders. When the price gets back to 83, they will sell to break even. This creates a supply overhang. So do not expect us to break $85 tomorrow. We need to chew through that overhang. We need to consolidate. We need to trade sideways between 75 and 80 for a while. We need to let the moving averages catch up. This sideways chop is the most difficult market to trade. It is designed to bore you to death. The volatility will drop, the excitement will fade, and that is exactly when the next move will happen. But there is a wild card. Gold. Gold is trading at $4,514. It barely moved. It didn't flash crash. It didn't spike. It just held. This stability is the anchor. If the silver market was truly broken, if the bull run was over, gold would have crashed too. The fact that gold is holding $4,500 tells us that the monetary premium is still there. Silver just got a little ahead of its skis. It ran too fast. Gold is the adult in the room saying, calm down, kid. We are going higher, but not that fast. Look at the gold to silver ratio. At $83, the ratio dropped into the 50s. At $74, it went back to 60. Now, at $78, it is around 57. We are compressing. The trend of the ratio is still down. This means silver is still outperforming gold. Even on a crash day, silver is showing relative strength compared to where it was a week ago. Last week, we were celebrating $65. Today, we are disappointed with $78. That is a change in perspective. That is the wealth effect playing tricks on your mind. You're disappointed that you aren't richer, faster, but you are still rich. Let's talk about the bank solvency rumor again. We mentioned the Lehman moment. Did a bank blow up today? The 10% swing suggests someone was in trouble. The crash from $83 might have been the liquidation of a long fund that got.
Yeah, 12 minutes. We had 12 minutes on that. That's enough. We'll get going here on the other Intel. I don't know what this means. Anybody know what this is? About 2 minutes. So that was interesting. Okay, a couple few ones here.
Searching for your very first home, or looking to grow your family.
What's up, family? Welcome back to Out of the Darkness. I am Q. I don't normally come to you guys this late, but I had to because this was so incredibly important. There is something going on right now that is going to put our country at risk, okay? And especially those of us that are conservatives. I've said time and time again, I am not a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I am a constitutional conservative. The problem is that so many people in our group will just rubber stamp the Republican and say, I'm voting Republican, down ticket. And I understand what you mean by that, but it is important, especially this year. The Democrats are doing some really, really nefarious things this year. And if we're not careful, we're going to start putting Democrats in office if we're not careful. We need to know who we're voting for. We need to be involved in the primary process, and that needs to start in our home states. Guys, I'm telling you, think about it. Why is it that the worst Republicans that we have in the House and the Senate generally come from red states? It's because we just rubber stamp them and send them through. We're not sending the best and the brightest that we have in our states. We're sending out junk. That's how you wind up with Mitch McConnell's. That's how you wind up with Lindsey Graham's. That's how you wind up with Mitt Romney's in office. So I ran across this. So there's this lady, and she, well, at first looked like she was in a full burqa, but I now understand it's not a full burqa, it's a hijab, which, you know, you guys have seen the Islamic dress for women with just the slit across the eyes so that you can just see just partially of the eyes. This lady is dressed in this. Now, we now know that her name is Lakeisha Alston. Now, this woman is running as a Republican in the 22nd district in North Carolina. Now, she's running for their state Senate. But when you look back at her history, she has voted Republican Democrat every single election she has. Even up until last election, in 2024, she voted for Kamala Harris. But then she turned right before the deadline, she switched to a Republican, to the GOP, solely so that she could run. The problem is that in her district, she right now is uncontested. So get to March, there won't be anyone to run against her, which means she will become the de facto Republican representative. We're looking at a situation where these people are now, and I told you guys this last week as it pertained to Brad Raffensperger in a red state like Georgia. Brad Raffensperger had been a lifelong Democrat, and then he runs for Secretary of State. He is a Republican, and he gets in. Guys, that's what these people are doing. It is so, so important for us to know the history of who we're voting for. Our vote is the most important thing that we have. Our vote is what stands between us and tyranny, between freedom and tyranny. People have died for the right to vote. And if they have died for that right, then we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our children. We owe it to the future of our country to know that we are not just giving a precious thing away. And the idea that this woman thinks that we're dumb enough that we're going to vote for Lakeisha simply because she's the only person on the ticket, that we're going to de facto vote for this woman, is absolutely insane and asinine. What type of idiots does she take us for? But if it works, then obviously we're idiots all the way around and we deserve what we get. But this is happening in every single state. Be on the lookout, because I promise you there's a lot of open seats. There's going to be a lot of Democrats in GOP clothing. I'll see you guys next time. Be on the lookout.
He had a lot of views on that one from last night. I got a short clip on something here. This here, I don't know why that's giving me a headache. This is off of News Force. So I'll clear that. So don't let this story die. There are 539 child care centers. All the blue states, you guys.
Right now, because we're coming up on the anniversary of January 6th, and the statute of limitations is coming up in a few days. And unfortunately, no one has been put under investigation, indicted, any of that for their treasonous activities. Many of us have been calling for the imprisonment, or at least the trials of those people who sat on that sham committee for January 6th, a committee that, one, had no real power, had no real jurisdiction, was not established lawfully, and hid information from the American people, gathered information illegally, and ruined people's lives. And so conservatives are saying, hey, Trump, what are you doing? Well, Hermit Dillon came out and she assured us that there will be justice for those people who had to endure the January 6th committee's sham. She assured us that the statute of limitations is not going to get in the way, that it is not going to stop them from continuing the investigations, her words, that they have already worked on. She mentioned to Pam Bondi that Pam Bondi and Donald Trump have very little that is higher on the priority list than making sure that each of those people pay for the crimes that they committed. You guys remember that these people used information, jailed people who were innocent. They harassed people. They broke up families, American families, I might add. Many people died because of health-related issues. Many took their own lives as a result of this. This was a real assault on the American people. And to make matters worse, the chief of all of the crooks in that committee was Nancy Pelosi. She put that sham committee together with a bunch of people who absolutely hated Donald Trump and everyone who voted for him. And she is still trying to peddle the lies, saying that Donald Trump was responsible for January 6th, even though we now have video evidence that she admitted to having to be responsible for January 6th. She admitted to it being her responsibility on videotape, but it's not stopping her from telling these lies. But Hermeet Dillon has come out. She has confirmed that justice is coming, are her words, for those people who served on the January 6th committee. I hope that that is the case. I will be watching with bated breath. But for those of you guys who are under the impression that the statute of limitations is going to somehow protect those people, Hermeet Dillon is confirming that that will not be the case, that they will continue pursuing these indictments. They will continue to pursue justice. And she is saying that it is not going to protect these criminals. I'll see you guys next time. Be blessed. Comment below.
Yeah, we got 2N. Two minutes.
But I wasn't going to just speculate on it. I was going to prove it. Here's Teddy Roosevelt. Here's Robin Williams. And that's both of their wives. And here's Andrew Jackson and his wife. And, well, what if we paired a younger picture with Miss Jackson with Miss Maxwell? Do you think that they might just fit pretty well down to the lips, the nose, and eye placement? And what if this goes back to our very first president and his wife, Martha? Funny how he looks a little more feminine than her. And a subscriber, Samantha, pointed out the resemblance of Glenn Close and George Washington. Funny, Glenn, especially spelled like Glenn Close, Glenn. It's a funny name for a girl. You want to see something even funnier? Here's Glenn Close's husband. And, well, do you recognize him? How about now? That's Martha Washington. Glenn Close's husband, Martha Washington. And I'm going to stop after this one for a second. Here's the 25th president, William McKinley, and I couldn't help but notice how identical he looked to Dumb and Dumber star Jeff Daniels. When the first time I ever happened to see this, they started talking about Dumb and Dumber randomly on the TV in the very first second. You know what's even funnier than that is how he's got a little mark right there. Good old President McKinley. And oh, look at that. So does Jeff Daniels. I did a 10-minute video on this that I'm testing out for the subscribers of mine, because if anything's going to get censored and shut down and give me account bans and strikes and warnings, it's this one. And let me tell you what that whole video is about. It's how they're not human. Here's Alec Baldwin and President Fillmore. And I say they're not human, and they tell us what they are. Just like the book of Enoch says,
What about
fallen
this one,
angels
guys?
are referred to as stars.
The image guy.
Go watch the 10-minute video. I'll release it eventually, but I need to test the waters because it's a doozy, and I think it explains exactly what's going on. But of course, all this is for entertainment.
Interesting one on that one.
That she will have our brave ICE agents thrown in jail for daring to enforce federal law on America's borders. She and her California cronies vowed to unmask and arrest these heroes, spitting in the face of the Constitution's supremacy clause. But karma, it moves fast. And Crazy Nancy's desperate power play just turned into her own legal nightmare. Federal supremacy isn't a suggestion, Nancy. It's the law. And speaking of Democrats tasting their own medicine, over in Virginia, Trump's longtime nemesis, Letitia James, she strutted into federal court today, pleaded not guilty to her bank fraud charges. But what happened outside the courthouse really had her rattled. Her so-called rally imploded into pure humiliation. Karma didn't just knock, it kicked the door down. Smash that like button for me if you want to see Tish held accountable for her glaring hypocrisy. If you're new here, welcome, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the latest headlines. Let's dive in. Nancy Pelosi is now upping her game in protecting illegals and the obnoxious agitators protesting ICE. Before we get to that clip, I want to show you what happens when one of these self-righteous young white liberals who thinks they're untouchable finally gets unmasked. These protesters act so tough behind their masks. The same masks, by the way, that they demand ICE take off. Funny how that works. But once their identities are revealed, they fold like cheap lawn chairs. Watch what happens when ICE has had enough of their charades, and watch closely because you're going to see the tough guy act completely vanish and the panic set in once his identity is revealed.
This person, we've been watching this person. He has been pushing ICE agents and police, and people have been defending him. There's another woman right in front. She was also pushing some of these officers. Whether they know someone who was arrested by police for being undocumented is unclear. Again, we're trying to figure out how many arrests there actually were that were undocumented immigrants as opposed to protesters. At this point, these are protesters who are being arrested.
He tried to fight the mask coming off, but clearly he lost that battle and realized he was the next poster child for F around and find out. Now watch this guy who dumped red paint on an ICE facility in Portland. He quickly went from tough guy to being the scared child trembling in the corner because he just got caught doing something he should have never been doing. These thugs, they're weaker than they want you to believe. And because the left never knows when to quit, they're now threatening to dox every ICE agent they can find. Classy, right? I mean, they won't call out the rioters hurling rocks and tear gas at federal officers, but they'll go after the men and women that are protecting our borders. Priorities, anybody?
We start the process of unmasking the agents. Every single one of those agents, height, weight, hair color. They wear their vests in a particular way. They're wearing insignias. Even the masks that they wear, the shoes that they wear, the cars that they're driving. We have a right to compile that information and put together a profile of each of these agents that's alleged to have committed crime.
Failed Democrat leaders at it again, prioritizing the profiling of police over stopping the murders that are terrorizing innocent Americans in their own cities. Their real goal? Shield illegals while undermining the agents who safeguard our sovereignty. And Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's pushing it even further. He's threatening to jail ICE agents outright.
The commission will collect testimony, hold hearings, and gather information and firsthand accounts. We can do the work so those who break the law are held to account. So this chaos will stop. And so nothing like it ever happens again.
Democrats are working harder to track ICE than they are illegals. Or what about the children Joe Biden lost? Why don't they track and find them? I know the Trump administration has had some success so far, but no Democrat has helped a
Okay, that's the first one on our TikTok lady. Can't play that one. Let's do a couple short mini videos.
Michigan has always been a place where bold ideas begin, take root, and grow strong.
That some people did something, all of us were starting to lose.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Remember that time that the Justice Department rounded up a bunch of Somalis for defrauding the American taxpayer nearly $500 million, feeding fake children in Little Mogadishu, Minneapolis? They were able to find a loophole where the American taxpayer would pay them during COVID in order to feed hungry, disadvantaged children. And of course, 90 different Somalis were a part of this fraud, and they've all been charged. This is, of course, one of the largest fraud schemes in American history, the largest PPP fraud scheme during COVID. And I think it's just the scratch of the surface for what they're about to find in what is reportedly $19 billion worth of fraud from the Somali community in Minneapolis alone. That's more than the GDP of Somalia. So to figure out exactly how this happened, you need to take a step back and ask yourself, how did these people who don't speak English, who many of them just got here, who come from a failed nation, a failed state, not the brightest bulbs in the box, if you know what I mean, very low acumen, very low IQ individuals. How do these people come up with these massive fraud schemes? Like, what the hell is going on here that facilitates this level of nation state at scale fraud? I mean, you're talking criminal enterprises that are bigger than the GDP of some nation states. Who created this? Who built this? And to find the answer to that, you're going to have to look to the most powerful Somali, probably in the entire world, which is Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar, of course, is quite famous. She's a member of Congress. She's been a member of Congress since 2018, elected because Democrats dumped 100,000 Somalis in Minneapolis, and they were able to facilitate a condensed population so tight and so tightly knit that they were able to get one of their own into Congress. And she represents not Minnesota, but Somalia. And there's also some very curious things that are happening with Ilhan Omar and her net worth. And we're going to investigate that today. You see, Ilhan Omar entered Congress in the year 2018. She's received a congressional salary of $174,000 a year. Now that's taxed. And of course, there are expenses that come with that. And so Ilhan Omar, you would assume over the last 7 years, if she saved every single penny after taxes, she'd maybe have $100,000, a couple $100,000 net worth. She entered Congress, by the way, as one of the poorest members of Congress. She had a negative net worth of $45,000 due to student loan and other debts. And so where is she now financially? Well, according to Ilhan Omar's own disclosures, she's now worth nearly $30 million. How's that possible? Well, certainly not on her congressional salary, but Ilhan Omar, if you want to start digging, you'll find that it was her who wrote the bill called the Meals Act that facilitated all of the fraud in Minneapolis. Here, this case, this scheme was created by Ilhan Omar and her legislation. The people who ran the scheme worked for Ilhan Omar's congressional race. They staffed her race. They donated to her. Ilhan Omar was seen serving food at this fraudulent kitchen. How much of this money was kicked back to Ilhan Omar? How much of that $500 million of stolen taxpayer money ended up in her pockets? And how did they do that? Because, you know, you can't just report that you stole a bunch of money from the taxpayers. Well, this is very interesting. You have to look at her husband. Ilhan Omar's husband, her third husband, not her brother husband, his firm has quietly started to scrub their website. This dude is super shady, and he's the reason why Ilhan Omar seemingly has so much wealth. His name's Tim Minette. Let's read. Ilhan Omar's husband's venture capital firm is quietly scrubbing key officer details, including former Obama officials, as scrutiny grows skyrocketing wealth, the Post has learned. Ilhan Omar went from being broke to $30 million in just a year. This makes her one of the poor from the poorest member of Congress to one of the richest members of Congress, and she wasn't even born in America. How the hell does that happen?
I don't know about that one, you guys.
This is potentially due to the
Benny
massive
was right on
$9 billion fraud scheme involving the Somali community in her district, of which legislation she wrote. Again, this is called the Meals Act. She introduced the Meals Act in 2020, relaxing oversight of congressional-sponsored children's meals programs during the pandemic, which critics say allowed the fraudsters to claim they served millions of meals without verification while pocketing the government subsidies. Shortly after the scheme played out, here's where it gets interesting. Omar's husband, political consultant Tim Minette, launched Rose Lake Capital, a venture capital management firm, in 2022. The company saw its reported value go from zero in 2023 to between $5 and $25 million in just a year. Who's their customers? Well, we don't know. It touted the officers $60 billion in previous assets under management. This is an amount that would make Wall Street's eyes water. There's a lot of strange things going on. Says some eggheads in DC. She was basically broke when she came into office. Now she has $30 million. What's going on with these assets? Rose Lake Capital, which touts its deep global network, built in on-the-ground work of more than 80 countries, and had less than $1,000 in assets in 2023, according to financial disclosures. Yet despite the reported windfall, the business only addresses a WeWork office in Washington, D.C., according to its LinkedIn page. Between September and October, the federal prosecutors announced charges against 8 more individuals, including 6 of Somali descent, for their roles in the welfare scheme. The names and bios of Rose Lake Capital's 9 officers and advisors were scrubbed from their website. None of them were charged with fraud. These names include a bunch of Obama people, like former Obama ambassadors, former Obama ambassador to China, former DNC treasurer, former CEO of Amalgamated Bank, which was called itself the Institutional Bank of the Democrat Party. So this is just a Democrat, massive Democrat lobbying firm. Meanwhile, Minette's other businesses in California, a California winery, which previously faced allegations, fraud allegations, was declared a failed venture in 2023, suddenly worth between $1 million and $5 million in 2024, a windfall of 9,000%. The winery, a little on the nose here, the Devil's Lie, is the wine that they were making. Got it? The fraud case involved a wine investor suing Minette in October 2023, accusing him of swindling him out of $900,000, fraudulently misrepresented the wine company that was a legitimate company. It was not a legitimate company. The case was settled out of court. The winery, called E. Strew Crew, at some point around 2022, promoted a line of wine, the Devil's Lie, with a prestigious California winemaker, saying that she abruptly stopped getting paid in 2023. The business was only worth $15,000, but suddenly Ilhan Omar was claiming that it was worth $5 million. You can see Ilhan Omar's claims right here in her financial disclosures report. You can see she makes a salary here from the wine company. Here's the creepy wine company that's allegedly out of, that's not even a real company, claiming that it's worth $5 million. And here's the Rose Lake Capital claiming $25 million. And then you can see she technically has no other money.
Join Planet Fitness for $1 down, $15 a month, and pay nothing until January 17th. Deal ends December 31st.
Scammers demand payment with gift cards. Don't share codes or personal details.
Great. I lost it. About it was at the 7-minute mark. There was about 3 minutes left.
Percent. The winery, a little on the nose here, the Devil's Lie, is the wine that they were making. Got it? The fraud case involved a wine investor suing Minette in October 2023, accusing him of swindling him out of $900,000, fraudulently misrepresented the wine company that was a legitimate company. It was not a legitimate company. The case was settled out of court. The winery, called E. Strew Crew, at some point around 2022, promoted a line of wine, the Devil's Lie, with a prestigious California winemaker, saying that she abruptly stopped getting paid in 2023. The business was only worth $15,000, but suddenly Ilhan Omar was claiming that it was worth $5 million. You can see Ilhan Omar's claims right here in her financial disclosures report. You can see she makes a salary Here from the wine company, here's the creepy wine company that's allegedly out of, that's not even a real company, claiming that it's worth $5 million. And here's the Rose Lake Capital claiming $25 million. And then you can see she technically has no other money. So what's going on here exactly? Despite the high net worth place on the business, the website is a broken link, the phone numbers are disconnected, and the last social media post dates back to 2023. So while working families are being ripped off in massive welfare fraud scam, Omar's campaign took money from convicted fraudsters. Her husband launched a firm that suddenly ballooned in value, and Tim Walz looked the other way. When she first took office, the left-wing squad declared her net worth was a negative $25,000, negative $65,000, claimed no assets, and she was carrying student debt and car debt. Now Omar's assets have skyrocketed up to $30 million based on her last disclosure, just months after a congresswoman dismissed claims that she was a millionaire. Her links to the Minnesota fraud schemes have also started to shed light on where she may be getting her money. Oof. Her campaign received $7,000 in direct donation from at least 3 now convicted fraudsters. The squad members returned the donation after the scandal broke. And she's been closely linked to 2 other individuals from the Minnesota Somali community that have been charged with fraud. It's not hard to actually see how this operation works. Ilhan Omar writes the legislation, right, that facilitates the fraud, like the Meals Act. Then the Somalis engage in the fraud, get the payments out of our Medicaid, Medicare, slush fund systems, and then she gets a kickback. Perhaps that kickback goes under management at her boyfriend's firm. I don't know exactly. Would the Treasury or Justice Department launch an investigation, please, into this money laundering? That's what we demand. You can see right here, this is the financial disclosures, and here, nobody has any idea what the hell's going on right here. Launch a full-scale firm into Rose Lake Capital, full-scale investigation into Rose Lake Capital. That's what we're calling for. This makes absolutely no sense. It's time for some answers, and now is the time to do it. It's your boy, Benny. Like, share, and subscribe.
So that's another one that needs to get investigated on. Okay, the next one's 4 minutes. I'm not sure. I can't remember if we played this one, Gay, so.
That is literally just not how the mechanics works. Prayer is quantum technology, and it's how consciousness communicates with the field. But religion trained us to pray from lack. Please help, please fix, please save, and we're always waiting. But Jesus modeled a different way. He prayed from alignment, and he didn't ask hoping it would happen. He spoke as if it already was, and that's coherence. In physics, observation collapses probability. In neuroscience, belief plus emotion rewires the brain. And in scripture, faith moves mountain. It's all the same mechanics. It's the same mechanism. So prayer works when your body, your heart, and your mind agree on the reality that you're tuning into. You don't pray for something. You pray from the state where it already exists. Gratitude comes first because gratitude signals certainty. Calm comes before words because regulation stabilizes the signal, and prayer is not asking God to come to you. It's aligning yourself with the field that God already lives in. And once you understand that, then prayer will stop being repetitive and it starts being extremely effective, and your life will change from the inside out. So how do we pray? Let's break it down now. To pray for yourself. An old way may look like, God, please help me. I don't know what to do. I'm struggling. But the quantum way sounds like this. Thank you for already stabilizing my nervous system and guiding my next step. I choose to trust the clarity that's forming right now. I am open, receptive, and supported. This works because gratitude and trust collapses uncertainty and tuning into guidance instead of amplifying lack. How do you pray for someone else? The old way may sound like, please God, fix them. Please heal them. Please change them. But the quantum way sounds like, I hold this person in wholeness. I witnessed their highest timeline activating. May they feel supported, safe, and guided in exactly the way that they're ready to receive. And this works because you're not interfering or forcing outcomes. You're stabilizing a field of possibility around them. How to pray for money or abundance. An old way could sound like, God, please help me financially. I'm stressed out. I don't know how this will work. Quantum way sounds like, thank you for the flow already organizing itself around me. I am open to unexpected pathways, creative solutions, and aligned support. I trust the intelligence moving through my life. This works because you're removing urgency. Urgency collapses options, but trust expands pathways. How to pray for a partner or for love. An old way might sound like, God, please send me someone. I'm lonely. I need love. I need someone. The quantum way would sound like, thank you for the connection that already matches my nervous system, my values, and my emotional safety. I am becoming the version of myself that reorganizes and receives aligned love with ease. This works because you shift from chasing a person to stabilizing the state that partnership requires. How to pray for direction or purpose. The old way might sound like, God, tell me what to do. I'm confused. But the quantum way sounds like, thank you for making the next step obvious. I don't need the whole path. I trust the clarity that's arriving in real time. And this works because clarity arrives in motion, not in pressure. How to pray when you don't know what to say. And this one is super important. The quantum prayer when you don't know what to say is, I don't have the words, but I'm present, I'm listening, and I trust what's unfolding. This works because presence itself is a very powerful signal. Prayer is not about convincing God. It's about aligning yourself with the reality you're ready to live in. And that is not religion, that's technology. Make sure to follow me so we can continue connecting the dots.
I wasn't sure about that one, you guys. I hope that was okay. The second Benny, I believe it's 8 minutes. We'll get to Billy next.
Of the Minneapolis fraud news cycle is that we are fighting complete morons here who are straight up telling us what they're doing. They're running fake child care centers in order to steal taxpayer dollars and enrich themselves and fund their own campaigns. And they do this openly, like when Tim Walz was running for vice president, a reminder that Democrats wanted to make this man the second most powerful person on earth. He just straight up said it. He just said, you know what, we need to make sure that more Somalis can get involved in the child care business, right?
Now, as far as child care on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take either our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business.
Get into that business. Let's go. And it is a business for Tim Walz, obviously. They've uncovered billions of dollars in fraud in Minneapolis, and now they're uncovering some of the receipts as to how that money gets laundered into campaigns like Tim Walz's campaign. Tim Walz bragged about child care business in Minnesota during VP debate before $9 billion scandal came to light. So it's pretty obvious. And more importantly, the fraud has been out in the open for a long time, not only in the vice president's debate, but if you just called the numbers in the child care advertisements here on the outsides of the buildings, you would find that they direct to Tim Walz's office.
Guys, this is absolutely mind-blowing. So I was watching the most recent video by Nick Shirley exposing these daycare centers. Now, they're going daycare to daycare, and the next one that they go to is called Sweet Angel Childcare. This is where they show up to, and this is the business right here, Sweet Angel Childcare in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Now, listen to where this phone number goes to when you call this childcare center.
Thank you for contacting the Office of Governor Tim Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Our office is located at 130 State Capitol at 75 Reverend.
It's Tim Walz's office. It's Tim Walz's office. So the fraud has been completely obvious, and it's in our faces now, and the Trump administration has to do something about it. And I spent my entire day yesterday calling Trump administration officials asking, what the hell are you doing about this? Like, the entire country is demanding action and demanding it now. And we're proud to say that there's been some action. Is it sufficient to satisfy the appetite for a bunch of door kickers to go in and to raid these places? I don't know. Let's watch. Homeland Security investigation. ICE are on the ground in Minneapolis right now conducting massive investigation on childcare and other rampant fraud. More coming, says Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem posting this video of agents talking to a Somali business owner in Minneapolis.
Say like other businesses that you partner with that you use for a service of any kind, maybe transportation or anything like that?
No, we provide usually parents, and they come like this, drop the kids, they go to us, and then we take care of them.
Awesome. And who actually oversees the receipt of those documents?
I am glad that this is happening. Again, like I wanted raids, I wanted tactical gear, I wanted what they did on January 6th to us, frankly. I wanted what they did to Mar-a-Lago to happen to all of these businesses. But I am glad that at the very least there are investigations going on and they're asking questions. These videos are starting to circulate all around social media. Here's another one from DHS is on the ground in Minneapolis going door to door on suspected fraud sites. The American people deserve answers on how their taxpayer money is being used and arrests when abuse is found. Under the leadership of Secretary Noem, DHS is delivering results. You can see now they're here inside of a convenience store. But you need to start raiding the fake daycares, obviously kick in those doors and show that there are no children there and that these are empty buildings. I think ultimately that's what people want, but this is good. Let me explain why. It's good because you need pressure. You need people to know that there is going to be a consequence when you commit massive fraud. Right now, there's no consequences for these people. And so the fraud continues and it'll continue forever. If you don't investigate it, expose it, start asking questions, that makes every single business. Nobody wants an IRS audit, right? Nobody wants an IRS audit. So if you're going to start asking these questions and you're going to start like demanding receipts, then you're going to make people extremely nervous. This is something that always happens when the government starts asking questions. And so this just the action of having a federal agent show up at your business and start like being like, do you have other businesses here? Have you ever heard of these people? Have you ever done business with this individual? Or do you have receipts for this trucking company? Have you ever seen children here? These are critical questions that begin to like break the fraud. ICE, HSI agents are on the ground in Minneapolis in a massive investigation. Swarm Minneapolis with agents. We heard that this was happening yesterday on the ground. Massive investigation, denaturalization, and deportation is what needs to happen next. This is something that was promised by Kash Patel yesterday. We heard from Kash Patel, Secretary Kelly Loeffler, who's with the Small Business Association, who's in charge of a lot of these businesses, the Department of Labor also as well, and hopefully something from RFK Jr., because he's in charge of Medicaid and Medicare, and that would be the Medicaid and Medicare fraud be a huge part of this, right? And so that would be what a whole of government looks like here. Now, what Kash Patel said is the FBI is on the ground and is ready to do raids themselves. And that there's a wholesale and full-scale investigation that's ongoing. What we heard from the Small Business Administration is that there is a full stop to all funding of small businesses in Minnesota. There's going to be no grants there. And what we heard from the Department of Labor is that they are doing a full-scale investigation themselves into unemployment fraud that's happening at scale in the state of Minnesota. And so, well, at the very least, people are looking. At the very least, you're going to start getting like a whole of government. Obviously, Stephen Miller, the vice president, and a lot of people are saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? Show me action. I mean, is it good enough for you? Is it good enough for me? No, I would love, again, to see dark of night federal raids, again, just like they did to us on January 6th. But we'll take it. Even Fox News here is calling and finding that none of these businesses are actually real. They don't have actual numbers. They're all fake. And so at the very least, we can get started, right? At the very least, get started in the exposing of this and get the ball rolling, and make this an example. Make this an example. This is the example, ladies and gentlemen. And nobody's taken the time to explain to me why there needs to be 100,000 Somalis in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Maybe we can go there next. Anyway, here's Fox News trying to call the businesses.
So this is Quality Learning Center. I meant to say Quality Learning Center. We've arrived to ABC Learning Center. All the windows are blacked out. I would like to check a child in the daycare. Why? Can I speak to a manager? I would like to see if I could bring little Joey, my son, little Joey here. Is there paperwork, or can I check out the daycare?
You got $2.66 million this year in funding, and $2.5 million last year. We're just wondering where the kids are.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going.
Wow. You're right. That was the old good journalism. By the way, Fox Digital reached out to that learning center to try and, get a statement from them. And apparently the number doesn't even work. So we did not get a response there.
Okay, Billy time, 20 minutes.
p.m. The sources I used today: God in the Bible, Patriot Subscriber, Redacted, Promethean Update, How Turner Plus. So far from space, we've had in the last 24 hours 4 M flares. Atlas is beginning to look a lot like something out of the Bible, Book of Ezekiel. And in Texas, in our family, we've had a hate crime. And we're putting it out, asking for any information anyone might have. China is moving nukes, and President Trump, no to Zelensky. So let's get started. We're going to begin with what's going on in terms of space and earthquakes. We know that when we have more activity from the sun, solar wind, flares, that we have more earthquakes going on, and we're seeing them in the U.S. In the last 24 hours in California, we've had a 3.3. Also in Nevada, we're seeing activity. And in Kentucky, that's near the New Madrid seismic zone, we've had an earthquake. And we're having in Washington State swarm microquakes near Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens. And in Kentucky, we had a 3.1. And in Alaska, along the Yukon border, we've had microquakes also going on all the way down to the Aleutian Islands. And in Kamchatka, the Russian peninsula, where we saw an 8.8 a few months ago, we're having several quakes of a Category 4 magnitude. So California, in the past 24 hours, we had a 4.7 in Susanville, California, 3.5 in Petrolina, California, 3.3 in Lee Vining, California. And we had the 3.1 near Lancaster in Kentucky. And in Nevada, we had a 2.8. So we see things are going on. Also, Since about in the last 24 hours, we've also had from the sun 4 M-class flares plus a C-class flare. The M-class flares were 1.3, 4.2, 2.2. So that's going on. And we had 3 M flares and 1 C flare. The flares have affected communications over the Pacific Ocean and in Asia. So we see things going on in space. And we have this, checking also about Atlas. So we had from BP Earthwatch reporting, Avi Loeb, astrophysicist for Harvard, has reported that Atlas does have a shield. Now we're getting new information that came out from W77 about a wheel within a wheel, and we image a composite image of Atlas resembling the terminology used in the Bible in the book of Ezekiel, wheel within a wheel. And we have this from Avi Loeb that there is a shield, some type of shield in front of the Atlas group of spacecraft. Now, BP is using the Zechariah Sitchin cycle of every 3,600 years. We do know that and believe that this Atlas is most likely being piloted by Anunnaki, the fallen angels, and Nephilim. And yes, there is a space cycle that correlates to cycles we see on the Earth in terms of ancient civilizations, extinction level events, and so on. I do not believe we're going to see that. We continue to have the U.S. military blocking radio signals from Atlas. And as I put out in my previous video, I believe there's a possibility those radio signals from Atlas could be aimed at communication devices like the pyramids and monoliths. So that's going on. We still are in a standoff, it appears, with Atlas. And we have this. President Trump also will be meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. I believe that meeting is today. We know that Israel is pressing for another war with Iran, which, of course, they want the U.S. to fight for them. So that's going on. And we have a statement from the president of Iran, Prigozhin, that there is currently a state of war with Israel, Europe, and the U.S. So a war between Iran and 3 groups, Israel, the European Union, and the U.S. So that's the posture of Iran. We have this from Israeli News Live, Stephen Ben-Nun, talking about, yes, the Nephilim are real. And I believe this Atlas is most likely piloted by Anunnaki fallen angels and most likely has a crew of Nephilim who are hybrids. And from Jabu 77, yes, we're seeing this composite image now of Atlas resembling a wheel within a wheel. And that Atlas, according to amateur astronomers, that's who we, the people, are getting information from. NASA and the European Space Agency and so on are not giving us updates. But it appears the amateur astronomers put out that Atlas has changed course. So that's going on. And as I said, the U.S. is still defending Earth. We have this from Hal Turner. Yes, we've had a massive weather change all over the U.S., even down to the Texas Gulf Coast. We're anticipating some freezing temperatures. But a strong blizzard has blown into Michigan, and at least 100,000 are without power. And we have this
I'm lucky.
from Redacted.
I haven't gotten it yet.
Talking about a source, a Dr. Yu, who is a physicist for NASA, talking about Atlas and stating that the Earth has seen Atlas before. Now, his time frame is hundreds of thousands of years ago. I submit we've been seeing Atlas come back at in precise cycles that is validated by our ancient civilizations and other events on Earth. I believe they've been
Save it, Aldi, and save the holiday spirit.
I wanted the word cuppa, as in cup of tea, I thought it would be great to mix with hug. When I saw the
yes, they could have come hundreds of thousands of years ago, but I believe they've been coming during this time frame and shorter cycles. Now, I want to report a hate crime that affected a member of our family. This happened late Friday night and was discovered early Saturday morning. So this occurred in Brazoria County and comes under the purview of our county sheriff, Bo Stallman. There was graffiti sprayed on this family member's home. He lives in a remote, rural part of the county. And graffiti was put on his house and truck, which, praise the Lord, family members were able to wash off of his house and truck. But before they did that, they called the police. They've taken pictures. And now there is questions about what are this graffiti mean? And the family is requesting any information from anyone. They're doing it on Facebook, and I'm doing it today on my YouTube channel. And these are the symbols that were painted on his house and truck. So something that looks almost like a C. It doesn't come all the way back. It had this symbol in it, and then a large circle, and then the letter K, and then another large circle, and then another half of a C. So the family is asking anyone who has information about interpreting these signals for my YouTube, please leave a comment. So that's going on. And now we have this from Hal Turner's Intel. China is moving nukes, and they are putting them on the border of China and Taiwan. So we have China. We have Taiwan. We know that's had 3 earthquakes. I reported on my previous video. China is now moving nukes to their border with Taiwan. And they are supposedly engaged in an exercise, but they are arming their launchers with nukes. It's called Justice Mission 25. And they are moving these launcher nukes on public highways and are disguising them as cranes. But they are moving nukes now to their border with Taiwan. So that's going on. And we have this. from Breitbart. The Small Business Administration, that's federal money, is going to stop all money going to Minnesota to fund the Somali fraud groups. And as I reported, this money was fraudulently taken from the federal government and the state government with the, according to the FBI, to fund Somali terrorist attacks on American citizens. So the SBA is stopping all money to Minnesota for this Somali fraud. We have J.D. Vance also talking about a new fraud. Somali fraud has been determined in Minnesota. This one has stolen $110 million. So that second fraud is in addition to the almost $1 billion fraud that had previously been reported. And we have this. Sunday, there was a meeting of President Trump with Zelensky at Mar-a-Lago. We are finding out from Promethean Update that President Trump said no to the supposed 20-point peace plan being put forth by Zelensky and the European Union. So President Trump, no to Zelensky. And we have this. And over the weekend, Russia had made a public statement. They will not allow any foreign troops in Ukraine. And we have this statement being put forth by Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov. And we also bring this new information out. Poland is authorizing its military pilots flying F-16s to fly over Ukraine and shoot down Russian missiles and drones. So that's the European Union, Poland, acting in direct position from President Trump. So we see Zelensky and the European Union want to continue war. And we have this. This came out in the last 24 hours. Flash U.S. intel. Dozens of Poland F-16s have been ordered to fly over Ukraine and shoot down Russian missiles and drones. And the question is, if they did that, would Russia then hit Poland? And would that be a basis for Article 5? I submit no. Article 5 comes into play in NATO when a NATO nation is attacked by another nation. Then the other NATO nations come to its defense. There, And it's my understanding Article 5 does not apply when a NATO nation takes military action inside another nation against another nation. No, you can't go on the offensive and then say that you've been hit. It doesn't work. And we have this. President Trump is putting forth two teams. He spoke this morning, Monday, an hour and a half with President Putin. And he's putting forth two teams to go to Moscow, one for the economic side of the peace agreement with Russia, and another for the military security side. For the military security side, President Trump is sending to Moscow Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the head of the Joint Chiefs, General Raisin Kane. So that's going on. So it's good to be in prayer.
Okay.
For certainly in Texas, apparently we have some individuals who want to put out hate graffiti. There have been some inferences that the symbols that were painted on our family members' home were reminiscent of Nazi white supremacist symbols. So let's pray against that. And let's pray for America, President Trump, U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay. A little better one again. Keep her videos. I hopefully she'll be at 20 minutes instead of long ones. You'll be shocked on this one, Kay. Okay, it's a home owned by NASCAR driver Danny Hamlin caught on fire Sunday afternoon, leaving 2 people hospitalized. I'm not sure who it was. Okay. Public record show the home is owned by Hamlin's real estate company. That's all it's saying right now. Wonder who, hopefully get an update on that. Okay, did you guys remember this guy? I don't think I played this. Let me know if I did. I can't remember.
Filed in Chicago family court last Monday don't just end a marriage. They expose financial crimes that could send Barack to prison.
I don't think I did.
I've analyzed political power structures for decades, but what discovered in those 47 pages of divorce proceedings revealed a pattern of deception that will reshape how we understand the Obama legacy forever. The filing was supposed to remain sealed for 72 hours, but when you're dealing with hundreds of millions in assets and potential federal crimes, legal secrets don't stay hidden for long. What Michelle's attorneys disclosed in their financial discovery requests would destroy not just a marriage, but an entire political empire built on carefully constructed lies. I was reviewing economic data about wealth inequality when my phone rang with news that made me close my research immediately. A former federal prosecutor, someone I'd known since the Reagan administration, was calling with information that would fundamentally alter my understanding of how political power and personal wealth intersect in modern America. Thomas, he said, his voice carrying the gravity of someone who had seen everything but was still shocked, you need to understand what Michelle Obama just filed in that Chicago courthouse, because this isn't just a divorce. This is a criminal referral disguised as a marital dissolution. The divorce papers were filed under case number 2024 FD 8847 in Cook County Family Court at 9:23 a.m. on Monday morning. The timing was deliberate. Michelle's legal team had waited until Barack was traveling internationally, speaking at a climate conference in Dubai, ensuring he would learn about the filing through media reports rather than private notification. But the timing revealed something else that fascinated me from an economic perspective. Michelle had clearly been preparing this legal strategy for months, waiting for the optimal moment to maximize her financial leverage while minimizing Barack's ability to respond effectively. The first bombshell appeared on page 12 of the filing, in a section labeled Previously Undisclosed Income Sources. Michelle's attorneys had discovered that Barack had been receiving consulting payments from foreign governments that were never reported on their joint tax returns. We're talking about $12.7 million in payments from the Canadian government for strategic climate advisory services, another $8.3 million from the German government for democratic institutions consulting. Most shocking of all, $15.2 million from the government of Qatar for Middle East stability guidance. None of these payments appeared on the Obama family's tax returns from 2020 through 2024. The legal implications were staggering. Tax evasion on this scale carries potential prison sentences of 15 to 20 years. But the political implications were even more devastating. A former president taking undisclosed payments from foreign governments while maintaining public positions on international policy represents the kind of corruption that destroys political legacies permanently. Michelle's attorneys had done their homework with devastating thoroughness. The divorce filing included copies of wire transfer records, email communications between Barack and foreign officials, and what appeared to be signed consulting contracts that had never been disclosed to the IRS. Page 18 of the filing contained evidence that shocked even me, and I thought I had seen every form of political corruption imaginable. Barack had established a shell company called Global Leadership Consulting LLC in Delaware in 2019. The company had no employees, no office, and no disclosed business activities, but it had received over $47 million in payments from foreign governments and international organizations between 2020 and 2024. The money had been flowing through this company and into various Obama family accounts, including joint accounts that Michelle had access to but apparently no knowledge about. She had been unknowingly participating in what federal prosecutors would likely classify as money laundering. Michelle's response to discovering this financial deception revealed something about her character that even her critics hadn't anticipated. Rather than quietly negotiating a separation that would protect both their reputations, she chose nuclear warfare. The divorce filing included a victim impact statement that was devastating in its clinical precision. Michelle described discovering the foreign payments while reviewing family finances for estate planning purposes. Her attorneys had apparently spent 6 months secretly investigating Barack's financial activities before filing for divorce. I believed I was married to a man who shared my values about integrity and transparency, Michelle's statement read. Instead, I discovered I was married to someone who was systematically deceiving me, our family, and the American people about his financial relationships with foreign governments. The statement continued with allegations that would end Barack's remaining political influence permanently. My husband used our joint accounts to launder foreign government payments while I unknowingly signed tax returns that contained false information. I have been an unwitting participant in what I now understand to be systematic financial fraud. The legal strategy was brilliant and merciless. By positioning herself as a victim of Barack's financial deception, Michelle could claim immunity from prosecution while ensuring that Barack would face the full weight of federal investigation. But the divorce filing revealed something else that demonstrated Michelle's sophisticated understanding of political power dynamics. She wasn't just ending her marriage. She was ending Barack's political career while positioning herself as a potential political figure in her own right. Page 31 of the filing contained financial demands that would strip Barack of the assets necessary to maintain his post-presidential political operation. Michelle was seeking immediate control of all Obama Foundation assets, the Chicago property portfolio, and the intellectual property rights to Barack's speeches and writings. If successful, these demands would leave Barack financially incapable of maintaining the consulting operations and political activities that had generated the foreign payments in the first place. The immediate political implications became clear within hours of the filing becoming public. Democratic Party leadership, who had already been distancing themselves from Obama following the Biden recording scandal, now faced a choice between supporting someone accused of tax evasion and foreign government corruption or completely abandoning their former standard bearer. The choice was swift and brutal. By Tuesday evening, every major Democratic leader had issued statements expressing concern about the allegations and calling for full investigation and transparency. Nancy Pelosi's statement was particularly devastating. If these allegations prove accurate, they represent a fundamental betrayal of the trust that the American people placed in President Obama and the values that our party represents. Chuck Schumer went even further. No one, regardless of their previous service, is above the law. These allegations must be investigated thoroughly and prosecuted to the full extent if criminal activity is confirmed. But the most damaging response came from Kamala Harris, who had already been establishing distance from both Obama and Biden. Her statement was a masterclass in political positioning. The Democratic Party has always stood for transparency, accountability, and putting the American people's interests before personal financial gain. These principles apply to everyone in our party without exception. The financial markets responded to the Obama divorce filing with surprising speed and clarity. The Obama Foundation's bond rating was downgraded within 48 hours. Corporate sponsors of Obama events began withdrawing support. Speaking bureaus removed Barack from their available speakers lists. Most tellingly, Netflix announced that they were reviewing all existing content agreements in light of recent developments. This was corporate speak for, we're preparing to terminate our relationship with Barack Obama as quickly as our legal team can find an exit strategy. The international implications were equally severe. The Canadian, German, and Qatari governments were all forced to issue statements about their consulting relationships with Barack Obama. Each statement revealed additional details that made Barack's legal situation worse. The Canadian government confirmed that they had paid Barack $12.7 million for climate consulting, but noted that they had been assured by Obama representatives that all payments were being properly reported to American tax authorities. The German government's statement was even more damaging. Our consulting agreement with Barack Obama included specific provisions requiring compliance with all American tax and disclosure laws. If those requirements were not met, it would constitute a material breach of contract. Qatar's response was the most devastating of all. We paid consulting fees to Barack Obama through his designated business entity with the clear understanding that all payments were legal and properly disclosed. If this was not the case, we will be seeking full recovery of all payments made. In other words, Barack wasn't just facing potential criminal prosecution from the American government. He was also facing potential civil lawsuits from foreign governments seeking to recover tens of millions in consulting payments. Michelle's divorce attorneys had clearly anticipated this international response. Page 43 of the filing included a section titled Restitution and Asset Recovery Exposure that outlined Barack's potential financial liabilities if foreign governments pursued clawback actions. The total exposure was estimated at $127 million, far exceeding the Obama family's disclosed net worth of approximately $70 million. This meant that even if Barack avoided prison, he would likely face financial ruin that would last the rest of his life. The filing also revealed Michelle's strategic planning in ways that demonstrated sophisticated legal and financial thinking. She had apparently been transferring assets into accounts under her sole control for months before filing for divorce. The family's Martha's Vineyard property, valued at $23 million, had been transferred to Michelle's name in September 2024. Their Chicago residence, worth $8.2 million, had been similarly transferred in October. Even Barack's presidential library intellectual property rights had been assigned to Michelle in November. By the time Barack learned about the divorce filing, Michelle controlled approximately 80% of their disclosed assets. This asset transfer strategy served multiple purposes. It protected Michelle from potential civil liability related to Barack's foreign payment issues. It ensured that she would have sufficient resources to maintain her lifestyle, regardless of Barack's legal outcomes. And it demonstrated to federal prosecutors that Michelle was cooperating with investigations rather than enabling continued financial misconduct. The psychological warfare elements of Michelle's strategy were equally sophisticated. The divorce filing was timed to coincide with Barack's international travel, ensuring maximum media coverage while he was unable to respond effectively. The 72-hour seal period meant that news of the filing would dominate news cycles for 3 days before Barack could even attempt damage control. Most devastatingly, Michelle's legal team had coordinated with media outlets to ensure that key details from the filing would be reported even while the full documents remained sealed. By Wednesday morning, every major news outlet was reporting specific dollar amounts and foreign government names from the divorce papers, even though the complete filing wouldn't be publicly available until Thursday. Barack's attempted response, delivered via video conference from Dubai, was a disaster that made his legal situation worse. Rather than addressing the specific allegations, he attacked Michelle's motives and questioned her mental state. Michelle is going through a difficult period, and I think she's being manipulated by people who want to damage our family, Barack said during a hastily arranged CNN interview. This response violated the first rule of crisis management: never attack the accuser when you haven't addressed the accusations. It also provided Michelle's attorneys with additional ammunition for their divorce proceedings. Michelle's response was swift and devastating. Barack's attempt to question my mental state and competence rather than address his financial deception demonstrates exactly why this marriage can no longer continue. I will not be silenced or intimidated. The divorce filing had transformed Michelle from potential co-defendant to primary witness against Barack. His public attack on her credibility ensured that she would have powerful motivation to cooperate fully with any federal investigation. The broader implications for American politics became clear as the week progressed. The Obama era of Democratic politics was ending not with electoral defeat or policy failure, but with financial scandal and criminal investigation. Young Democratic politicians who had built careers on Obama associations began distancing themselves immediately. The Obama Alumni Network, that had been a powerful force in Democratic politics, started dissolving as members sought to avoid guilt by association. Most significantly, the scandal provided Republicans with a narrative that would dominate political discourse for years. Democratic leaders who lectured about transparency and accountability were themselves engaged in the kind of corruption they claimed to oppose. The secret divorce filing revealed something about political marriage economics that most Americans never see. When political couples accumulate wealth and power together, divorce becomes warfare because both financial assets and political legacies are at stake simultaneously. Michelle understood that her post-divorce political value would be determined by how effectively she distanced herself from Barack's misconduct while maintaining her own credibility and financial security. Her legal strategy accomplished both objectives with remarkable efficiency. The 47 pages filed in Cook County Family Court didn't just end the Obama marriage. They ended the Obama political dynasty and potentially launched Michelle Obama's independent political future. Sometimes the most devastating political attacks come from the people closest to power who understand exactly where the vulnerabilities lie. The legal documents Michelle...
Okay, that was a big update. Never heard that one. I'll do the other half after we get some short ones in. Do about 4 short ones. Can't remember if I played this one or not.
Their fate, rejecting President Trump's offer to crush crime with federal might. This holiday weekend, the stats are in, and they are shocking. 52 shot in Chicago alone. Streets ran wild, and I have chilling video of children fleeing for their lives, soccer games that are shattered by gunfire. And what does Mayor Brandon Johnson do? He blocks the federal troops the city is begging for. Then in Los Angeles, Governor Gavin Newsom preys on wildfire victims, scheming to seize scorched properties for affordable housing for his political allies, turning tragedy into a resume boost for his 2028 run for the White House. And a liberal judge blocks Trump's mission to reunite children lost under Biden's reckless border policies with their parents in Guatemala. Families are stranded while politics come first. This is the left's America. Crime runs unchecked, victims are exploited, families abandoned, and unless we fight back, chaos will keep winning. As always, hit that like button for me and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who has been praying really hard for my editor's father-in-law, Tony. A lot of you have been asking how he's doing. I've got an update for you as promised. I will have that for you at the end of today's show. But first, let's dive into today's headlines. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson continue to push back on the president's offer to send in the National Guard and put an end to this violence. The numbers coming out from this holiday weekend certainly do not support their argument that crime is down and everything is okay.
Chicago police confirming that 5 people were shot near 36th Street and Cottage Grove. Officers responded to the area around 1 o'clock last night, 1 o'clock this morning, I should say. Police say while they were on scene, officers heard gunshots and moved to the area of gunfire.
There was also another mass shooting on Saturday night in Chicago. It was a drive-by shooting, and that one injured 7 people. And the kids, just trying to play sports in the park, are even having to take cover. Watch this.
In Chicago, everybody got to get down. Everybody got to get down because they shoot. Everybody down. Look, these kids are running. They shooting. We can't have no fun in Chicago, man. No fun, man. This is terrible. I ought to throw a goddamn flag.
Nobody should have to live like that in the United States of America. Now, over this weekend, as of this morning in Chicago, there have been a total of 31 shootings with a total of 52 people shot, 7 of which were killed, and only 3 arrests have been made in connection with these violent acts. Brandon Johnson says his job is to protect his residents, not from the violence, from Donald Trump.
This president continues to go well beyond the bounds of the Constitution to the extent in which our democracy is in peril right now. I'm going to do everything in my power as the mayor of this city to protect Chicagoans.
I guess he's more concerned with the perception of the National Guard in his city than he is with actually saving lives. I mean, even Ray Lopez, a Democrat Chicago City Council member, is now slamming Mayor Brandon Johnson for refusing to cooperate with President Trump. Take a look.
How many victims are we comfortable with? Because that's ultimately the subtext of what the mayor and the governor are saying, is that we are comfortable with the amount of victims we have right now. We don't need to improve on our numbers any further than that.
That's not just frustration. That is a Democrat blowing the whistle on his own city's leadership. Think about it. Instead of joining forces to save lives, Mayor Johnson would rather play politics and leave Chicagoans in the crossfire. It's reckless. He's literally putting lives in jeopardy just to appease his far left base. Now, President Trump, he wrote on Truth Social this morning in part, quote, Pritzker, Westmore, Newscomb, and the 5% approval rated mayor of Chicago who spend all of their time trying to justify violent crime instead of working with us to completely eliminate it, which we've done in Washington, D.C., now a crime-free zone. Wouldn't it be nice to say that about Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and even the crime-drenched city of Baltimore? It can happen, and it can happen fast. Work with us. Now, Gavin Newsom is suddenly playing crime fighter, deploying California Highway Patrol crime suppression units from Los Angeles up to Sacramento. Retail theft, auto theft, narcotics, you name it, he's supposedly on it now. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't a real crackdown. It's a political stunt I call damage control. See, Newsom's move comes right after President Trump surged federal resources into D.C. to crush crime. Newsom sees the writing on the wall. Americans want law and order. And if Republicans deliver a safer California, his White House dreams for 2028, they go up in smoke. Think about it. For years, Newsom brushed off California's crime crisis, mocking Trump and pointing fingers at red states. But under Newsom's watch, violent crime spiked 15% from 2019 to 2023. Homicides, burglaries, robberies, devastating families, hollowing out communities, you name it. He denied it while it was happening, and it was happening in his own backyard. And now, because Trump is in the White House in the dead of night, while America's cities bleed.
Okay, that was a good one from her. I think I'm behind on a few. So I'm going to end it with two more 10-minute ones. The other half of Obama, and then I got Trump's interview with that lady on Sunday.
A.m. last Tuesday contained financial demands so shocking that Hollywood's biggest stars are now refusing to take his calls. I've studied the intersection of celebrity culture and political power for decades, but what I learned about this email revealed something about desperation and moral collapse that astounded even me. The email was never supposed to become public, but when you're demanding millions from people whose entire careers depend on public image, somebody always takes screenshots. What Obama wrote in that 847-word message would destroy not just his Hollywood relationships, but expose the transactional nature of celebrity political support in ways that most Americans never see. I was reviewing data about entertainment industry economics when my phone rang with information that would fundamentally change how I understood the relationship between political power and celebrity wealth. A former Hollywood agent, someone I'd known since the Clinton years, was calling with news that would expose decades of carefully hidden arrangements. Thomas, he said, his voice carrying the disbelief of someone who thought he'd seen every form of Hollywood manipulation. You need to understand what Obama just sent to half of Hollywood, because this wasn't asking for help. This was systematic extortion disguised as a friendship appeal. The email went out simultaneously to 47 recipients at exactly 3:22 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, December 10th. Obama had clearly calculated the timing to ensure maximum psychological impact, arriving in inboxes when celebrities would check their phones first thing in the morning. The subject line was deceptively simple: need your help, urgent personal matter. But what followed was the most systematic celebrity shakedown in modern history. The email began with language designed to trigger guilt and obligation. My dear friends, I'm writing to you not as a former president, but as someone who has always been there for you when you needed political support, access, or protection from negative publicity. Obama was reminding each recipient of the specific ways he had helped their careers during his presidency. For actors, this meant White House invitations that enhanced their social status. For directors, it meant federal tax incentives for their film projects. For musicians, it meant performance opportunities at state dinners and political events. But the email quickly shifted from reminiscence to demand. I now find myself in a situation where I desperately need the same loyalty from you that I have always shown. My legal and financial challenges require immediate assistance, and I'm hoping you will demonstrate the friendship and gratitude that our relationship deserves. What followed was a detailed breakdown of Obama's financial needs that read like an itemized extortion list. He requested $5 million from each A-list celebrity, $3 million from B-list stars, and $1 million from supporting actors and industry executives. The total request exceeded $200 million, making it the largest celebrity fundraising appeal in political history. But the most shocking element wasn't the amount, it was Obama's explicit threats about what would happen if celebrities refused to contribute. I think you all understand, the email continued, that my years in government gave me access to information about personal matters that could be damaging if disclosed. I have always protected that information out of friendship and loyalty. I trust you will show me the same consideration during this difficult time. Obama was threatening to expose celebrity secrets unless they paid his demanded contributions. The email included a detailed payment instruction section that demonstrated sophisticated understanding of money laundering techniques. Payments were to be made through a network of political action committees, charitable foundations, and consulting companies that would obscure the source of contributions and avoid reporting requirements. Recipients were given 72 hours to make their payments and warned that delayed responses would be interpreted as lack of support for our continued friendship. The reaction from Hollywood's elite was swift and more brutal than Obama had anticipated. Oprah Winfrey, who had been instrumental in Obama's 2008 campaign and had maintained a public friendship for over 15 years, responded within 6 hours with a message that ended their relationship permanently. Barack, she wrote, I am shocked and disgusted by your email. Threatening to expose personal information unless people pay you money is called blackmail, and it's a crime. Do not contact me again. Steven Spielberg's response was equally devastating. I supported you for president because I believed you represented integrity and moral leadership. Your email proves I was completely wrong about your character. Consider our friendship permanently ended. George Clooney, who had hosted numerous Obama fundraising events at his homes in Los Angeles and Lake Como, sent what may have been the most damaging response of all. You have become exactly the kind of corrupt politician you once claimed to oppose. I will be sharing your email with appropriate authorities. One by one, the responses poured in, and every single one was a rejection that ended years of political and personal relationships. Jennifer Lawrence's response was brief but cutting. This is disgusting behavior from someone I once respected. Leonardo DiCaprio wrote, your email reads like something from a mob movie. I want no part of this criminal behavior. Even celebrities who had remained publicly supportive of Obama through his recent scandals drew hard lines at criminal extortion. Beyoncé and Jay-Z issued a joint statement through their representatives. We are appalled by the recent communications from Barack Obama and will not be responding to any future requests for contact or support. The speed and unanimity of these rejections revealed something about Hollywood political culture that most people don't understand. Celebrity support for politicians is largely transactional, based on mutual benefit rather than genuine friendship. When the transactions become criminal extortion, even the most politically loyal celebrities will abandon political figures immediately to protect their own reputations and legal standing. But what happened next demonstrated that Obama had fundamentally misunderstood how information flows in Hollywood. Within 24 hours of sending his email, screenshots of the message were circulating among celebrity agents, publicists, and studio executives. By the second day, entertainment industry lawyers were advising their clients to preserve copies as evidence of potential criminal activity. By the third day, multiple celebrities had forwarded Obama's email to federal investigators. The entertainment industry, which had once been Obama's most reliable source of political and financial support, had become his most dangerous legal liability. The FBI received at least a dozen copies of Obama's email from different celebrity sources. Federal prosecutors immediately recognized the message as evidence of extortion, blackmail, and potentially racketeering violations. What made the email particularly damaging from a legal perspective was its systematic nature. Obama wasn't asking individual celebrities for help. He was operating what prosecutors would classify as an extortion enterprise targeting an entire industry. The economic implications of Obama's celebrity shakedown attempt fascinated me most. His demands revealed both the scale of his financial desperation and his complete misunderstanding of how celebrity wealth actually operates. Most celebrities, despite their public image of unlimited wealth, maintain relatively modest liquid assets compared to their total net worth. Their wealth is typically tied up in real estate, business investments, and ongoing contractual obligations. Obama's demand for immediate multi-million-dollar payments from 47 different celebrities would have required them to liquidate major assets or secure substantial loans against their future earnings. Even celebrities who might have been willing to help Obama financially couldn't have met his demands without significant personal financial disruption. This revealed that Obama's entire strategy was based on fundamental ignorance about celebrity finance and Hollywood business operations. The entertainment industry's response to Obama's email also demonstrated the limits of political loyalty when legal liability becomes a factor. Hollywood celebrities had supported Obama during his presidency because association with him enhanced their social status and provided access to exclusive political and social events. They continued supporting him after his presidency because he remained culturally relevant and politically influential. But criminal extortion crossed a line that ended the cost-benefit analysis that had sustained those relationships. Within a week of the email circulation, the entertainment industry had implemented what amounted to a complete Obama boycott. Netflix announced that they were reviewing all existing content relationships with Obama-affiliated productions. Disney quietly canceled planned projects involving Obama family members. Even streaming services owned by Obama supporters began distancing themselves from Obama-related content. The Obama's production company, Higher Ground Productions, saw multiple project cancellations and lost access to industry funding sources that had previously been reliable. Most significantly, talent agencies that had facilitated Obama's speaking engagements and media appearances informed him that they could no longer represent his interests. The email that was supposed to generate $200 million in emergency funding instead cost Obama access to entertainment industry relationships worth hundreds of millions in future earning potential. Hollywood's rejection of Obama also revealed something about celebrity political culture that extends beyond individual personalities. The entertainment industry's political support had always been based on perceived winners rather than ideological consistency. Celebrities support politicians who enhance their social status and provide access to power. When Obama's political influence collapsed due to his legal problems, his value to celebrities disappeared immediately. The extortion email simply accelerated a process that was already underway. The aftermath continued to reveal additional layers of damage that Obama hadn't anticipated. Several celebrities who had received Obama's email began publicly discussing their experiences with what they called political extortion. These discussions exposed other instances where Obama had leveraged his political position to pressure celebrities into financial or promotional support. Oprah revealed during a recent interview that Obama had repeatedly asked for loans that were never repaid, and had pressured her to use her media platforms to promote policies that benefited his personal business interests. Spielberg disclosed that Obama had requested access to confidential studio financial information during his presidency, ostensibly for economic policy purposes, but actually to identify potential future fundraising targets. These revelations suggested that Obama's recent extortion email was part of a longer pattern of abusing his political position to extract value from celebrity relationships. The systematic nature of this abuse explained why Hollywood's rejection of Obama had been so swift and unanimous. Industry leaders weren't just responding to one inappropriate email. They were responding to years of accumulated resentment about Obama's exploitation of their political loyalty. The broader implications for celebrity political culture are significant and long-lasting. Obama's email demonstrated that the relationship between political figures and entertainment industry supporters is fundamentally transactional and potentially criminal. This revelation will likely make celebrities more cautious about political associations and more demanding about what they receive in exchange for their support. The entertainment industry's swift rejection of Obama also sends a clear message to other political figures about the limits of celebrity loyalty. When political relationships become legal liabilities, even the most loyal supporters will abandon their political allies immediately. From an economic perspective, Obama's failed extortion attempt demonstrates how quickly celebrity political capital can evaporate when trust is broken. The relationships that Obama had spent decades building were destroyed in less than 72 hours because he fundamentally misunderstood the nature of those relationships. Celebrity political support is based on mutual benefit, social status enhancement, and reputation protection. When a political figure becomes a reputation liability rather than a status asset, celebrity support disappears immediately. Obama learned this lesson in the most expensive and public way possible. The email that he thought would solve his financial problems instead eliminated his access to the very celebrity network that had made his post-presidential career financially viable. Sometimes the most desperate attempts to maintain power actually accelerate its complete collapse. The entertainment industry that had once celebrated Obama as a cultural icon now treats him as a cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing celebrity culture with political corruption. The mass email Barack Obama sent to
Okay, I thought those were two big ones there. Okay, did you see the one I sent you about the YouTube lady today? I don't know if that's a good one to play today or not. We'll see how the last video with Trump and see if this is good to play or not too. So we'll see how this interview goes. Last video, Chico.
Lost time. And the country was very poorly run for 4 years. That you know better than anybody. Nobody covered it better than you, frankly. It's an honor to be with so many great people. We have really great people working with us.
What do you specifically want America to look like in 4 years when you're done?
Well, I want a dynamic country where private enterprise carries the day, not the government. And I want a strong country militarily. We need that nowadays. You can see that probably better than ever before. So I rebuilt our military. A lot of it was given away to Afghanistan, but it was a lot, but a very small portion, in all fairness. But when you think about the billions and billions of dollars that was just handed over, but I rebuilt it. We're going to be rebuilding it again because we need that. We always need that. But we're doing a series of incentives, tax incentives and other things. The tax bill, I think, is going to be very important. We had record-setting inflation under Biden. It was a killer. It's one of the reasons I won the election.
But you may get it again with these tariffs, right? I mean, one CEO said to me, my input costs have already started to go up. I'm going to have to raise prices.
Interest rates are going down. You know what else is going down? What have I been trying to get down? Energy. Energy's going down. I'd love to see energy go down. You know, energy is really what caused it. They screwed up my energy. I had the most energy, and they screwed it up. What I have to do is build a strong country.
Yeah.
You can't really watch
the
stock market. If you look at China, they have a 100-year perspective. We have a quarter. We go by quarters.
That's true.
And
5 o'clock
you can't
tomorrow.
go by that. You have to do what's right. What we're doing is we're building a tremendous foundation for the future. Tremendous foundation. There are two ways Iran can be handled, militarily or you make a deal. I'm not sure that everybody agrees with me, but we can make a deal that would be just as good as if you won militarily. But the time is happening now. The time is coming up. Something's going to happen one way or the other. I hope that Iran, and I've written them a letter saying, I hope you're going to negotiate, because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing for them.
You wrote a letter to the Khomeini?
Yes.
When did you send the letter?
Yesterday.
And you said you better negotiate, or we want you to
I didn't
negotiate?
say you better. I said, I hope you're going to negotiate, because it's going to be a lot better for Iran. And I think they want to get that letter. The other alternative is we have to do something, because you can't let them have a nuclear weapon.
Mr. President, you were just coming off of one of the most consequential weeks anybody has ever seen, from striking Iran to going to NATO, to announcing 2 deals, and then the Supreme Court victory.
It was pretty wild period of time. And I really think in 6 months, we've taken the country and turned it around.
You went to the Middle East and you strengthened those relationships with all of those countries you just mentioned. Did you have an idea that you would have to do something with regard to Iran?
Well, it was getting a little bit hot, and we knew they had a lot of sites, probably 3 plus the 1. But they had 3 main sites, and We knew they're going to have to either give them up. And I thought we could do it during negotiation, and we just about had it done. And then they said, we want enrichment. These people flew 36 hours in a small space, a big plane, but a small space that was mostly occupied by bombs. And they flew so brilliantly, and they hit a target the size of this circle. The little target, they say half the size of a refrigerator door from 50,000 feet up in the air, going at a rapid speed because they're going very fast when they're over a pretty rough territory. And they hit it every single time. And then they knocked out 2 other sites aside from that.
Aren't you going to have to compromise on something around
I don't
healthcare
know.
subsidies to
Here's
end
the
this
problem.
thing?
They want to give 1 point. They have a deal. We have a deal. We just want an extension. And the reason we want an extension is because you can't make a deal with these people. They're lunatics. They've gone crazy. They're crazed people. Trump derangement syndrome. There really is that disease. At first, I found it to be amusing. Now I find that it really is. They want $1.5 trillion for health care for illegal aliens that come into our country. If we do that, it will jeopardize the health care of the citizens of our country. So we're not going to do that.
And on China, you've got a lot of economic levers to pull. You've got all those Chinese companies trading on our exchanges.
I have a lot to pull. I don't want to. I'm not looking to destroy China. I'm not looking to destroy China. But, China's taken out trillions of dollars, not hundreds, over the years, trillions of dollars. China has built their military because of us. China has taken out trillions and trillions of dollars. And then I came along my first term, as you know, I took out hundreds of billions of dollars from China. I tariffed China. And Biden left them, except he made so many exceptions, it didn't matter. But I tariffed China. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. And now they forced me to charge them what is the equivalent of 155 to 157%.
It seems like you go so far with China, but you don't sort of use the leverage that you can use. I mean, look.
If I ever had to use it, I'd use it. But when there's no reason to use it, that's good too.
Well, we did just arrest 3 or 4 Chinese nationals who tried to bring a pathogen into the country that gets people sick and destroys food supply. We've got hacking.
You don't know where that came from, though. I mean, did that come from the country, or is that 3 wackos that happened to carry something? You just don't.
Well, there was one that he signed that he would be, one of them signed a paper saying that he would value Mao Zedong's value system. So there was that. And then they hack into our telecom system. They've been stealing intellectual property. Fentanyl, COVID. I mean, all of this stuff. So how do you negotiate with obviously a bad actor and trust them on economics?
You don't think we do that to them? We do.
So
we do a lot of things.
That's the way the world works?
It's the way the world works. It's a nasty world.
And then you just do a trade deal?
We do. Well, we made a lot of money with this trade deal. I do a trade deal if it works. We made a lot of money with the trade deal.
You think that China is going to stop bullying companies to give them information in terms of in exchange for getting those rare earth minerals now?
The companies shouldn't put themselves in that position. They really shouldn't. Now, I will say this, China right now needs those companies much more than they needed them 2 years ago. 2 years ago, China could do that. Today, they can't.
Mr. President, I just want to ask you about the job cuts from these companies. Some of them are blaming AI. And one CEO told me that AI, artificial intelligence, allows engineers to be at least 25% more productive. It's helpful in contract management. It's helpful in repetitive jobs. It's helpful in data. What can you do to offset the job cuts that will no doubt come as a result of AI efficiency?
One thing, very simple, bring more companies and more jobs. The truth is we don't have enough people to take care of these jobs. So it's like perfect timing. We don't have enough people. My biggest problem is they're coming in and they have to hire thousands and thousands of workers. This is perfect timing. We don't have enough people. And I had an idea. I said, when you build your plant, you're spending billions. You're going to become a utility, an electric utility, and you'll have your approval in 2 weeks. I said, Lee, you're going to approve this stuff fast. Make sure it's safe, make sure it's good, but you have to get it done fast.
Did you get any sense from Putin that he would be willing or open to the idea of ending this war without taking significant property from Ukraine?
Well, he's going to take something. I mean, they fought, and he He has a lot of property. I mean, he's won certain property. If you say that, he's won certain property. We're the only nation that goes in and wins a war and then leaves, like we did under President Bush.
Do you expect an expansion of the Abraham Accords?
I hope to see Saudi Arabia go in, and I hope to see others go in. I think when Saudi Arabia goes in, everybody goes in, highly respected. And the Crown Prince, who's also the Prime Minister and the king in waiting. His father's such a wonderful man. He's still healthy and he's still very sharp. But I think that they're going to all go in very soon.
So they've indicated to you a willingness to do so.
Oh, they have, even as recently as like yesterday.
Final question on the surveillance that has gone on. I mean, we've got reports that Congress collected 30 million lines of phone data during the January 6th investigation. They tapped the phones of 8 sitting lawmakers. What can you do to prevent this kind of surveillance? And how high up the chain did this go?
I think it went right up to the top. And I think it started with Obama, with Comey going up and giving me a briefing in 2016, 2015, the end of 2015 and 2016. And then I said to him, who knows about this? He said, President Obama, his wife, and Joe Biden. They sat in the Oval Office talking about it. But it went all the way through. Obama was involved. Biden was involved, everybody. And then they got this guy, deranged Jack Smith, a lunatic. And they put him in because he was the meanest prosecutor you could find. He was sort of a failed prosecutor because he'd failed because he'd always go too far. And now he really went too far. And we'll see. But you had 8 senators and I guess a couple of congressmen and some other people. But you had, maybe worse than that, you had a House raided of the ex-president of the United States, who actually won the second election by a lot.
Were they looking for that report on Russia collusion?
I heard that they were looking because they thought there was a report bad about them. They thought I had it, which I didn't have. I didn't have anything of any merit. But they were looking, and I also had the Presidential Records Act. I had the right to have all this stuff. I had that right to have it. Only the president has that right. The vice president doesn't have that right, but the president does. But they were looking for they thought I had bad things on them because they knew how bad they were.
Do you expect there will be charges that there was a conspiracy
against you? I don't know about charges. I'm allowed to be involved in this. I'm the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. You know that, right? A lot of people say, oh, he's the president. He should. No, I'm the chief law enforcement. I'm allowed to be involved in it, but I haven't chosen to. I think Pam is doing a very good job. I think Cash is really coming onto his own. It's a field that he's very good at. I think they have some people that are very good. We're going to see what happens.
Obama the other day in a podcast to say that right now democracy is being threatened.
Yeah, I know. He says that all the time. He's the one that threatened it by spying on my campaign. He started it. Obama spied on my campaign, and he did it knowing it was illegal. He knew it was illegal, but he started the whole thing. And there were a lot of dishonest people, and I suspect they'll be caught. To go like that, we're at a very...
Okay. Oh, got a lot of good stuff out tonight, I think. We got better timing tonight, only 2 hours, 15 minutes. So not too bad, no long videos. Okay, thanks again, helping. And good to see all the old names back and new names coming in. And so God bless everybody. Love all. Make sure you hit the like and stay strong, keep the faith, and never give up. Signing off, Chico noon. Another night of intel, and tomorrow evening, Tuesday. See what happens here. Tomorrow's what, the 30th? So we only got a few more days left of 2025. Signing off, you guys.